Hi everyone, and welcome to Game 2 of Match 1 of Fearless Backgammon. I'm Jay, and today we have a relatively short match, but still there are a couple of interesting decisions that, in thinking about it, should improve your backgammon. I think one of the main learning points from this game is the value, in some cases, of what I call tempo hits, hitting loose on your opponent in order to, in a sense, take away some time, take away the full roll from your opponent to execute his plans and perhaps to, advance your own plans. So look out for those, which I've highlighted in the video. And there's also an interesting cube decision that connects directly to the theme of this channel, Fearless Backgammon, right? Taking more risks, calculated risks, and playing with less fear. Okay, so look for that cube decision at the end of the match. And as usual, feel free to leave suggestions and comments, and enjoy. Thank you. Right, so let's start with game 2 of match 1. And with White's opening roll 4-1, he decides to slot his 5-point, quite an aggressive play. But XG is not too impressed. XG prefers that White split the back checkers. Now, when I'm behind in the match, I do like to play 4-1 this way, slotting the 5-point. It complicates the match more. But perhaps XG feels that this is a bit early in the match to take such drastic measures, and the simple split of the back checkers is best. It doesn't seem to be a big error, and maybe it is a case of preference, but it is something to keep in mind. Black correctly runs out with the 6-3. Note that bringing a checker down, a builder down from the midpoint is not really a big mistake here, simply because White is preoccupied on his own side of the board. Of course, it's a little risky, right, that White might be able to hit the back checker and then cover on the 5-point. But Black's play does have the advantage of duplicating 3s, right? So if White rolls a 3 next turn, does he hit the back checker, or does he cover with a 3? Assuming he doesn't roll a 3-5, of course. So that's kind of an interesting decision. That's perhaps one of the reasons why running with 6-3 is better in this case. White rolls double 2s and strengthens his home board quite nicely. He now has an early advantage in the game. And Black doesn't roll exceptionally well. The best he can do is basically just continue with one of the back checkers onto his side of the board and safety that blot a little from a direct shot. Now this decision is an interesting one. 5-2 as played seems quite natural, but we have to be careful about making sort of automatic so-called natural rolls. I always consider the context. And the situation on the board here is that White has a strong home board. And, it's good if White can take advantage of that. This is something I kind of think of as also as a tempo hit. Notice that on Black side of the board, he's set up, right, to do a number of things, to make points, to start a prime, perhaps even to attack. And through the loose hit, White is kind of putting a wrench in those plans, right? Of course, Black might roll a double 1 or something like that, though it's not likely. But generally, this takes away Black's full roll, okay? And Black might not enter, okay? Or Black might have an uncomfortable roll like 2-6 from the bar. In general, right, there aren't a lot of bad things that can happen because of the weakness of Black's home board versus the strength of White's home board, and Of course, the race is also a consideration, and the race is quite close. So if black is able just to freely run with that back checker out, things could look much better for black. And so attacking that lone back checker does play to white's strengths, and kind of plays into this idea of taking away black's full role to execute his own plans. So quite an interesting suggestion by XG. And again, be careful about automatic kind of moves, right? 5-2, that kind of thing. It seems to make sense, and I probably didn't spend much time over it, during the match, but I should have considered the strength of my home board as a factor here. Okay, so black makes an outfield point and steps up with the back checker. Remember, that's one of his key goals, is to escape that back checker and not get primed. And so this gives black's back checker a little more daylight, even though it seems like, he's liable to be attacked by a direct shot, but that's only, a 5, right? So here's another move that's kind of seems automatic, right? Just bringing one of the back checkers out to safety and reinforcing the midpoint. And it's very close, XG's suggestion of coming out and, bring in another kind of attacker builder on the 5 point is quite interesting. And it follows that principle of, when you have a strong home board, you want to instigate contact, right? You want to mix it up with your opponent. You want to, if possible, trade punches. Just because any hits on your part or return hits on your part do pose some risk for black because of the strong home board. And so again, playing to your strengths here is something to consider. So even though it seems kind of automatic and safe just to run that back checker, and it's not a mistake, really, there is some rationale to mix things up by, putting a blot within range to be hit, but also, bringing an extra kind of attacking number into play against black's lone back checker. Very interesting, yeah. Okay, black strengthens his own home board, and white is able to complete a 5 prime, quite a lovely roll. And now black needs a 6 to jump out, right? But black strengthens his own home board in a hurry with his double 4. And, white still has the advantage thanks to the 5 prime and the possibility of attacking that lone black checker that's back. But things could get dicey now in terms of if white is hit, because of the black strong home board. With the 2-1, there's not a lot white can do, but white does take advantage of the fact that there are really no direct shots onto the blot on the 3 point, right? Okay, and so he steps up to try to escape that checker. And black correctly hits loose. It is, some people might think, well, in this situation, maybe it's best if I kind of block the white checker with, a move like this. But you notice it's a blunder. And there's a couple of reasons. One is that there's still, 6s or 4s for white to jump out, including possibly hitting black's outfield blot after this move. And it also gives white some free rein to attack the lone back checker, right? And so this again has that idea of taking away white's full roll. And notice black's home board is stronger now than white's, even though black is behind a prime, but black has 4 home board points versus white's 3. So an exchange of blot, hitting blots and stuff like that is somewhat justified. Yeah, and of course white could dance, and then he could get into trouble quickly. So it does make sense here to hit loose. White comes in, but can't hit the blot. However, he's fortunate in that he can use his spare checker on the 7 point to hit black's blot. Okay, especially now that black has his own blot in his home board here, right? So that's even more of a justification. But of course, there aren't many good 4s anyways. So black is unable to come in from the bar, and white whips out the cube. And this is interesting, right? This is kind of an interesting point because XG basically suggests that this is a time to really keep the cube and play for the gammon, right? And I think it really is a question of white being a little afraid, right? We have this proverb in English, a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush, right? So basically, keep what you have instead of risking to get more. It's maybe a proverb against greediness. But in backgammon, it translates as, take the 1 point guaranteed win instead of risking playing on for a gammon. Okay, and that proverb is not always applicable, right, to backgammon. Really, playing on for gammons when you have quite a large advantage does make sense. Now, here the advantage isn't so huge. If you look at the winning chances, for example, you can see black still has over 25% winning chances, but it's really the gammon, right? There's close to 40% gammons in this situation for white. And so that really justifies this idea of playing on. And it's really related to the 2 blots, right? That black has here. And whether white can hit them, and then of course, white is a favorite to cover his own home board blot, perhaps even with 6-4, which would be a pretty good roll, and to complete the 6 prime. But I think white is afraid here, right? Black has a 4-point home board. There's no guarantee he's going to hit a blot. There's no guarantee he's going to cover his own home board blot. Things could turn around for black. But still, if you're able to objectively look at this position, you can see that, definitely, black would probably prefer just to let this game go, right? With him on the bar and white able to potentially, advance his prime or even make a 6 prime, and white having the chance to hit more blots and go for the gammon. In terms of the theme of this YouTube channel, Fearless Backgammon, one area of fear that we have to be careful about is the fear of losing 1 point, right, when we play on for the gammon. And so, really trying to think about, is it worth playing on for a gammon? Are there more blots to pick up? What are the chances that your opponent can turn the game around? You have to take a calculated risk sometimes, okay? One thing to think about is generally, are you in a position, if things don't go perfectly, this roll, are you still in a position to, give a cube next roll? Okay. And so that sometimes does take some calculation to what extent black can turn things around with how many numbers is black able to really turn things around if you don't roll so well. And in this case, there aren't that many poor rolls by white, okay? Maybe, what are we talking? Like a 6 doesn't cover, a 1, maybe a 6-1 isn't so good, but you can make the 2-point with a 6-1, right? So it's not horrible. So on the whole, there aren't that many numbers, and it's worth to play on for the gammon here to try to pick up those 2 blots and to try to perhaps close black out. So in any case, as you can imagine, black was correct to pass this. It's a huge pass, okay? Just because of those, that 40% gammon chances. Yeah. Right, so that's the game. White made a few mistakes. Black played perfectly, okay? But white only won 1 point, okay? And so now it's 2-1 instead of a possible 2-2 if white had played on for the gammon and not been afraid and taken a calculated risk. Okay, a short game, but I hope you found a couple interesting junctures in the game to think about in terms of improving your own backgammon play, and hope to see you for game 3 of match 1. Thanks.